Cool, Jafar. And with that, let's proceed to the first panel session of the summit with the topic Innovating for Sustainability, the value case for SMEs post COVID-19. And I will pass the mic over to the moderator for this first session, Dr. Alinette Adiga, Manager, Public Policy and Corporate Relations, Southeast Asia, Global Reporting Initiative, or GRI. So over to you, Dr. Alinette.
So I am Ali from the Global Reporting Initiative. Before I start the panel discussion, please allow me to just thank the organizer, the UN Global Compact Network Malaysia, for the invitation to moderate this panel. So UNGC is a global partner of GRI. Together, we have produced tools to enhance and mainstream corporate reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the country level, UNGC has been a strategic partner of GRI in Singapore, Indonesia, and the Philippines in promoting SDG reporting in the ASEAN region. So as Ryan mentioned, the theme of the panel discussion is Innovating for Sustainability, the Value Case for SMEs in Post-COVID-19. So SMEs are the economic backbone of Southeast Asia with a combined GDP of over $2.7 billion in 2017. The ASEAN economy is projected to grow over 5% a year and become the fourth largest economy in the world by 2030. However, because of COVID-19, we know that this growth has been stunted. Like the rest of the world, the pandemic has severely affected Southeast Asian economies through disruptions to the flow of goods and services in the region's global value chains in unprecedented proportions. However, 10 months into the pandemic, we are seeing the world starting to emerge from hopefully the worst of the pandemic. The past few months have been a frantic attempt to contain the virus. The coming period presents an opportunity to rebuild and reshape the world for the better. A looming question now is how to avoid reverting to the cumbersome and cautious legacy practices and risk-averse decision-making that had hobbled innovation performance in the SME segment. As uncertainty abates, there is a pressing need for guidance on which changes to innovation approaches to prioritize and how to decide which opportunities to grasp. So this panel discussion seeks to explore the innovative approaches to business models, operations, and markets among SMEs that have created new value propositions for society and repair dysfunctional ecosystems. So today we are fortunate to be joined by a distinguished panel of successful entrepreneurs. So I will introduce them one by one. So for each panelist, I'll ask you to briefly introduce yourselves, a bit about your organization, and what motivated you to launch your enterprises or your business. So I will start with Jansen Lim, Director of Danapak Industries. Over to you, Jansen.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Good morning, fellow panelists. Okay, my name is Jansen Lim. My factory is located in Penang, Malaysia. Basically, Danapax, we involved in the plastic sheet extrusion for special compounding sheets like PS, PP, HDPE for the thermoforming industries. So our major end user customers like the IC trays, shipping trays, food packaging, and also we have special targets in the medical devices packaging. The company has been about 25 years in history. This is what about us for the moment. All right, back to you, Dr. Ali. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jansen. So now we go to our second panelist, Mr. Sia Kian Ho, the founder and managing director of Heng Hiap Industries. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Good morning to everyone. We recycle. So we're a plastic recycling company. So I was born in a recycler's family whereby my parents were collecting recyclable from household to household. All the bio newspaper, Beri Surat Khabar Lama, many of us are familiar with that. That's how we started out. And then we go from the scavengers, mobile pickers, and yard owner. Growing up, this is an industry that is misunderstood, and I've seen many cases whereby my parents were being shamed in front of us. So what I want to do is to prove them wrong, and that's how I started a company in year 2002, and then we integrated the entire informal community together. Currently, we are working with 28,000 independent grassroots recyclers here in Malaysia alone. We curated the de facto industrial standard so that everyone has the same playbook to work with. And this year has been super exciting because we launched the ocean plastic material, whereby we collect the ocean plastic, convert it into a industrial grade that fulfills all the top industrial standards. And then the product comes with a QR code that can show the entire biography or the entire food step that how it actually traveled from ocean plastic to become a designer product as part of our life. So that's a quick intro. Back to you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Kian. There's a lot of things to unpack there, especially that at this time, we're experiencing plastic crisis all over the world. So we will touch on that in detail later on. So now we proceed to our next speaker, and I'm so happy that we have a very balanced panel today. So let's go to Catriona Maddox, who is the CEO and co-founder of Katama Borneo. Over to you, Catriona.
Good morning, everybody. So yes, I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living in East Malaysia for over a decade now. And in 2014, I co-founded, which is a social enterprise, originally working with Indigenous communities in Sarawak to preserve traditional craft and make contemporary products. And in the last few years, the social enterprise business model has really evolved and adapted. There's lots of very good organizations in Malaysia, such as SASI's, Earth Air, that are doing the business model that we started with. And we realized there was other gaps and areas. So we've been developing systems and models for preserving craft and heritage and innovating creative fields through organizations and events and activities. And in 2017, I founded Borneo Bengkel, which is a platform working with creatives from throughout Borneo, that's Sarawak, Brunei, and Kalimantan, basically trying to bring together rural creatives and craft makers and urban artists and musicians and performers, and getting them to explore their Indigenous identities and Borneo heritage, but through contemporary creative expression. Bit of a mouthful, but there you go.
Thank you very much, Catriona. Very interesting SME as well. It's good that we have enterprises that preserve culture and heritage, which is also the same nature of that SME of our next speaker. Sassy Kimi is the founder and director of Earth Air. Over to you, Sassy.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I founded Earth Air in 2013. We are a social enterprise based in KL, and we've been working with artisans as well, Malaysian heritage and Malaysian crafts. And we have a specific focus on sustainability. And we've been working with about 100 artisans all over Malaysia, including Sarawak, Sabah, and Peninsula Malaysia. I think what was interesting for us this year was we were actually able to kind of adapt our business model a little bit, and we started making PPE actually in response to the need when the lockdown happened in March. And we have been making a lot of face masks. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to share about why I believe the social enterprise business model is important, and why I think business for good can sustain better in the long term than a business that does not focus on social impact.
Thank you very much, Sassy. So we as I've mentioned, we have a very interesting group of speakers for this panel, and you are all in the business of innovation and actually addressing very specific social problems. So I will start because Johnson and Kian's enterprises are somehow related to each other, right? So I would like to ask first Johnson and then Kian. So my first question is: as an entrepreneur, you've taken risks to pave the way for new and very unconventional business. So did this idea come to you by chance, or I mean, I mentioned it. Touch on this already, but yeah, I will ask it. You could discuss it more in detail. So, did this idea come to you by chance, or was it by design? Let's start with Jansen. Jansen?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Sorry. Okay.
Are you able to hear my question?
Sorry, it was a lag in my Wi-Fi. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So my question was, have you, as an entrepreneur, you've taken risks to pave the way for new or unconventional business. So did this idea come to you by chance, or was it by design?
I think basically it's by chance because last time I was working with a Japanese company actually for this extrusion line business. And by chance, all the while in Malaysia, 25 years ago, there's no extruder in Malaysia. And we were actually an importer from a Taiwanese company. And it was by chance that one of the Taiwanese, our principals, they would like to set up a business set up in Southeast Asia. And by chance, we were offered to do this. And well, we just pick up the business from there. And well, then you pick up from there. So our basically is by chance that an opportunity was given to us. And well, I just snap it up. Yeah, right side. Okay, all right. Right, thank you. Over there. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jansen. So how about you, Kian? I mean, you said that this is practically a family business. I mean, but what motivated you to continue it on? Because you could have gone to another industry, right?
Absolutely. I think what is important is that a lot of people, when they see waste, our family see worth. However, to extract the worth, you need the technology behind it. You also need control the entire process, have basically the right people, the right process, the right strategy. That's why having the entire playbook is something that's very important. In the plastic recycling industry, there is no international standard or international playbook for everybody to follow. And that is for us the most important part. And then for us, so for us, I think that's the most important thing for us to do. And to answer your question, my answer is the same as well. It's also by chance. It started by spotting the trend line, understanding the pain point in the industry, and then try to come up with a solution, try to design a solution. So the recent example is what we see with plastic pollution and marine pollution as the big trend. So what happens after that is that because of this, consumers start to reject plastic. So that is a huge pain point, and then we start to realize that ocean plastic is a problem. Consumers are rejecting plastic. So what we do then is to come up with a product market fit. Try to come up with a product with a solution that solves the problem, at the same time can offer a product to our consumer. That's why we went into ocean plastic, and then we basically work out the entire certification and standard. And Heng Hiap is the first company in the world to be certified with ocean-bound plastic certification. So it was audited by a 100-year-old company and also witnessed by WWF. So I think we started by understanding the trend, and then after that design a product market fit and work out a collaborative model so that we can continue our business sustainably and at the same time making the environmental impact that we want to. Over to you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you very much, Kian. Now let's proceed. It's quite interesting because the guys are in the plastic business, and then the ladies we have here
Over to you,
are in
Doctor.
Hello, can you hear me, guys? Yeah. So as I was saying, it's really interesting that the gentlemen in our panel are in the plastic business, while the ladies in our panel are in the business of preserving culture and heritage. So, Catriona, the same question. So, what yeah. So, did this enterprise come to you by chance, or is it really by design?
So my background is actually in visual arts. I don't really see myself as an entrepreneur as such. I'm more of a platform builder or a networker. I see gaps or things that need linking up, and I sort of try to build those bridges. So I started doing a master's at UNIMAS in craft development strategies for rural communities. I was visiting a lot of longhouses throughout Sarawak, and I realized that there was these incredible artisans there that were making beautiful pieces, but they weren't getting the experience to be able to create products for a contemporary world. And so I was looking at strategies and techniques that we could provide for communities to really upskill and upscale their capacity to be able to create more modern products. And then when I was doing my thesis, I realized I didn't want to just write a very long essay that was going to sit in a library and get dusty and no one was ever going to really utilize it. And then I discovered social enterprises. Back in 2014, social enterprises weren't a very well-known thing. And so I discovered what they were. I went to a training session with the British Council, and then we were very lucky to actually win some funding from them for Social Entrepreneurs for Good. And that really started us off on the journey. So it was a sort of happy accident of realizing that my skills and my knowledge and the research that I was doing could actually be created into a business model and benefit the artisans and benefit the community.
Thank you very much, Catriona. Very interesting, and I mean, I'm happy for you that your thesis just didn't gather dust because mine has been gathering dust. I wasn't able to practice what I wrote. Let's go to Sassy. So same question. So was it something you just woke up one day and you thought, this is what I want to do, or this is something that you have been wanting to do, you're planning for some time?
So to be honest, I actually quit my job. I was working at Kazana. So my background is in investment banking and private equity. But I was sort of disillusioned with my life. And so I actually took some time off. And I happened to be in Cambodia teaching English, building schools. And that's when I met with a lot of similar story to Catriona. Like I met with a lot of communities like sex trafficking survivors and they were making crafts, they were making products, and the middlemen were making most of the money, and the communities were really struggling. So I did not plan to start a business. I did not write a business plan. I just started buying products from the communities and like selling it to my friends and family. And then I met with an impact investor, Dr. Kim Tan, and he said, Saki, if you really want to help these women long term, you have to build a sustainable business. Even as a business school student, starting your own business is very different from learning about it. So in 2013, I registered Earth Air as a business. And I mean, it was definitely very difficult the first few years because I wasn't able to pay myself a salary, or I didn't know if it was the best use of my talent and time. But now 7 years later, I can say we are one of the pioneers of the social enterprise business model in Malaysia, and the fact that we've survived and grown what we're doing. So it's to me a testament to the fact that business for good has a role to play in society.
Thank you very much, Sassy. That's a very interesting life journey you've taken, and it's quite a big risk, right? So may I just follow up on that? Because coming from the financial sector, if I may call it, or a fixed income job. How is it transitioning? Because it's a social enterprise, but nonetheless, it is an enterprise, and for you to continue to do the job that this enterprise, it has to make some money as well. So how was it? Yeah, how was it making that jump?
I mean, like I said, initially it was very difficult because, proving the business model and trying to figure out how we were going to make money and make it sustainable took some time. But we broke even in about 4 years. And, I managed to survive, during that time by doing other consulting projects and things like that. But now Earth Air has been sustaining on its own for the last 7 years. I mean, last 3 years. Yeah. It's not a road that I encourage everyone to take because I think running a business that is not focusing on social impact is already hard enough. And then having to prove your impact and how you're helping communities is like an additional responsibility to say. So I would say that trying to make social enterprises sustainable is a harder business case than, say, a regular business. But one thing I've noticed this year is that during the pandemic, and because of the fact that there were lockdowns and we really have to depend on what is within the country, I think it's brought a lot of awareness about local production, local manufacturing, supporting local businesses, right? Has become a major issue, and I think more Malaysians and perhaps ASEAN communities have become to around the world, people have come to realize how important that is. So I think that has been a huge positive step for us and for a lot of small businesses in Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Sasi. So now I would like to go to Catriona because it's the same thing, no? How do you make sure that your enterprise is financially viable? Because we don't really see a lot of enterprises really in the area of preserving culture and heritage, and normally we see this kind of activities that are sponsored or funded. So how do you make sure that this activity is financially viable?
I think our journey was quite similar to Sasi's in that for the first few years we weren't we relied on various grants. So we got the British Council grant to begin with. We also got the Magic Amplify grant, which has helped support us and build our capacity. So originally the business model was very specific on selling craft products. When we sort of realized, and I think it's so highlighted now that there's a pandemic, that the luxury craft market, when the economic model of the world stops, first thing that people really stop doing. And the thing with social enterprises, I think you're constantly having to be diverse and look for different channels. So when that happens, actually you're in a good position to be able to experiment and try different areas. For the last few years, Katama has actually been doing a lot more creative events. So we do creative consultancy, we have companies that want to do branding, or if they want to do gift shops. So it's always about looking about diversifying and looking for different streams. At the moment, we're actually looking at taking traditional craft products, and rather than looking for the luxury market, we're trying to take them into the exhibition space, because actually the art market is one of the more stable of the creative fields. So we're trying to recontextualize traditional craft, and rather than taking it as a product which sells to one person, how can you take it into the contemporary art world through innovation? So really, to answer your question, it's for us to have survived for the last 6 years. It's about constantly looking for any avenue, any revenue stream, diversifying, flipping, and seeing how we can take the skill base that we've got and evolving it for different scenarios.
Thank you very much, Catriona. So we now go to the plastics king. And unlike the enterprise of Sasi and Catriona, plastic production and plastic manufacturing, it's more financially viable in comparison. And with recycling, we know that there's a saying that one man's waste is another person's treasure, something like that, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, but especially in ASEAN, where a lot of countries are known as sachet economy, right? And I'm very impressed with the work that UPIAN is doing. But how come I don't see this kind of, because a lot of countries in ASEAN still, are lagging behind in terms of plastic recycling. And in fact, ASEAN, particularly the Philippines, were one of the main plastic producers in the world. So how come we don't see this really taking off in a lot of places, especially in ASEAN? Kian?
Sure. So there are several fundamental problems that they are, or challenges that are really, really big challenges. Number one is the fragmentation. If we look at the plastic recycling industry, it is highly fragmented. Along that value chain, you are broken into 6 independent core processes. Company A might be doing collection, company B doing separation, and then you have crushing, washing, mixing, or compounding, and finally extrusion. So you have that A, B, C, D, E, F that are doing their own thing. So without a holistic standard that binds the entire industry together using a de facto industrial standard, you have a lot of inefficiency because of the fragmentation. Number one is that logistic cost is very high. Number two is that labor cost is very high because there's, everybody is sort of doing this, blindfolded. And the third thing is that a lot of technology are actually obsolete. So having that standard, it's very, very important at the very as part one. Part two is that a lot of time these businesses are done in a silo manner. So I'll make things faster, better, cheaper, leave me alone. So everyone kind of operate on its own. Especially right now, given the challenges of COVID, the entire industry are highly affected because the cost of recycling goes up. At the same time, we were hit with double whammy because of COVID and low oil prices. So in a way, we are actually squeezed in between. So operating on the leave me alone model, it's actually very limiting. The third thing is that because of infrastructure and investment, that sometimes that doesn't combine that all. So those are some of the challenges. That's why you see that the results are quite mixed. And what we have done is actually trying to solve all three by, number one, creating our own industrial standards so everybody has a standard to follow. While the global recycling rate is 9% for plastic scrap, globally, that's a global standard. For Malaysia, our plastic recovery or recycling rate is 30% for 2019. So it's not too bad. And a lot of that are done by this unsung hero, or what I call the invisible hands of plastic recyclers here in Malaysia. So that is one part that's very important to integrate all of that. The second thing is that we start going into a very collaborative model. So we basically collaborate everything based on customization. All of our product, rather than make to stock as in a commodity grade type of material, we actually make it into specialized material, niche performance material, so that today we are collecting 60,000 tons of plastic scrap from Malaysia only. And then out of that, 70% are exported to 33 different countries. We are servicing the top Korean home appliance maker. We are servicing the top Japanese automotive maker. And now our ocean plastic is servicing a lot of FMCG and also a lot of the lifestyle brand. So being able to sell at a margin, being able to basically get that premium pricing status through customization is very important. And the third part of that is that we are basically linking that to broaden our bandwidth. So our bandwidth in terms of technology and investment becomes something that's very, very important. So globally, there are impact investors, there are resin producers, there are many entities that realize this problem that the informal community is underinvested, and then are basically investing a lot more bandwidth in here. And we are talking about, basically financial investment. We're talking about technology in terms of digitalization, and also we are working a lot closer with government. Government are very interested with our de facto industrial standard, and then we are working on setting policies that will further encourage this. So there are a lot of things that are happening right now, but you're right, Dr. Ali, all this evolution is too quiet. So thanks to the platform like today, we get to share some of these updates. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kian. So now we're from Kian, because it's end of the line, it's plastic recycling. So we now go to Jansen. So you're into more on the production side, right? And we see with the discussion on circular economy, what are the trends that you see now in the industry, and how do you think this will affect, in terms of cost structure for your business? Is it, looking at the industry trends, is it still something you think that will continue to be financially viable? Because, over to you.
Sure, thank you. Right, I think myself and Kian, we are almost in the same team. We're in the same team. In plastics industry, we are looking at 3R. Reuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I think I will take the 2R, and I think Kian take the last R. Basically, it's because Dynapack, we are doing a special compounding material for specific industries like IC chips industries, shipping trays, food, medical. And what we do is, over here, our business model is we try to come out with some very more suitable and specific customers' material, hoping that the material can be last longer using in the industry. Like, for example, we have this IC component electrics, where they have a lot of recycling trays between the supply chain. Like, for example, somebody do a chip and it goes into the IC chips and all that, and then they have to recycle from plant 1 to plant 2 to plant 3, and we try to get some materials which can last longer, so that they can reuse all the trays for the business on that part. So that is the first R that we're looking at. And secondly, we also go into reuse material. Means like some of our customers, when our customers, they have do vacuum forming, they have a 33% side trim wastage. And over here, we encourage our customers to come into, we call it closed loop 3R with them, meaning they will crush the material at a site and send to us. And we will use the material because basically it's the same bomb material, the same formulations we use. So we can actually reuse. So this is part of the circular economy we're looking about to say, is that, both parties having a situation where we reduce our cost in doing our production. So the closed loop industries, the closed loop program, we've been running with a few of our major customers, which we run quite successfully over the last 10 years. And we find that actually both parties is very comfortable with this environment that we have. So basically in Dynapack, we are going into that area. And of course, the third R when Ken coming in is there will be actually some plastic material that escaped our 2 areas. And I think Ken take over that one. So I think basically we are in good partnership, Ken. Right, over to you, Ellie.
Thank you very much, Jansen. So, during this pandemic, we know that most of, a lot of businesses have been severely affected because of the border closures. The flow of goods has been inhibited. So we know that those that have survived in this pandemic, among those type of companies that have survived are the tech companies. So we know how important it is to digitalize, to go high tech. So I am curious to hear from Sassy and Catriona. So how do you think the digital landscape will provides a platform or an opportunity for your organizations to grow? Let's start with Catriona.
So over the last few months, obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about digital, and I think for the urban-based creatives that we work with, I think digital and technology provide some fantastic opportunities. But I also think it really needs to be noted that the rural communities that we work with, you know, in East Malaysia, there's so many communities that have connectivity issues. So I'm actually twisting your question and sort of saying this: there's a lot of opportunities for urban communities, but I think actually what's happening and what we're seeing is this huge digital divide. And I think what really needs to be considered moving into 2021 is how do we create these opportunities for rural communities? How do we focus on connectivity so that communities that already have limited infrastructure and already face so many challenges, how can we bring them into this digital sphere so that they're not left even further behind other communities?
Thank you very much, Katriona. Sassy, same question.
Yeah, I think for us, it's it was a challenge this year to really grow our sales via e-commerce. I mean, even while we have had a website, but we didn't depend on our digital sales as much as we did this year. So I think the fact that one, the idea of looking at local manufacturing, and supporting local businesses, that has helped. So that has meant that a lot more people have been buying from us, more than they were probably the previous years. But partly, of course, because of the fact that it's easier to get products from within Malaysia. So I find myself doing the same thing. When I shop online, I look at whether the product is in Malaysia or outside of Malaysia. Because if I want it quickly, then I'm looking for someone who can make it in Malaysia, because I don't want to wait for the long process of getting it from abroad. So I think in that sense, it has really changed how we do business online. And I think products with a social cause, or like products with a story, right, where there's an impact behind it, I think products like that have really gained a lot more recognition this year. So, looking at what Kian's doing, looking at ocean plastics, reducing plastic waste. I mean, these kinds of, so, I mean, even as a business person, I mean, we have been looking for packaging that can be made in Malaysia that is reducing plastic waste rather than using virgin plastic. So, there are more and more businesses that are looking at that. And I mean, I saw a question earlier about, how can SMEs look at sustainability and try to bring profit and environmental sustainability into one. I mean, that transition, or trying to balance those two is not easy, but I think that it is an important business strategy that every business needs to be looking at already. Like, I think SMEs, multinational corporations, like, there's no longer a time for you to be doing business as usual. It's like we've come beyond the tipping point now. Like, people need to, CEOs need to start thinking about, how can I make my business more sustainable? Get more local manufacturing, use more materials that are environmentally friendly, and make my processes more efficient and less environmentally damaging, create less pollution. Putting sustainability into your business process itself has become an imminent need.
Thank you very much.
May I jump in here just to add on to
Yes, go ahead.
Sasi? Sure. I completely echo with what Sasi and also Katriona is saying earlier on. I think businesses really need to come together. This time around is very different. It's a lot more collaborative than before. So let's talk about our experience during this COVID time. This is the time that we even start working with our competitor that we're operating down here in Johor Bahru. I contacted the Kuala Lumpur, one of the biggest competitor, and one of my biggest competitor in Penang, and say, let's make it A, B, and C, and then let's come together and make a pact. If either one of our factories is affected, the other two will basically produce on our behalf at a fixed price. So in the past, we were competing, but in the era of COVID, we need to work together and to collaborate together. And not just that, among the entire supply chain, we have done like what Jason said earlier on. We have done the hard part on collecting ocean plastic. We collect as far as from Mantanani Island in Sabah, and we bring it to our doorstep, the ocean plastic from Mantanani, Sabah, and then we convert it to useful product. And right now, I have so many ideas that I can collaborate with both Sasi and Catriona, on this field. So the collaborative approach is as such that we collect and convert it and fulfill all the industrial standard, even fulfilling, SMETA social compliance. We work with product designer, and in this part, it could be our local native artisan, craftsmanship, and then after that, we can then sell it to conscientious consumer with the entire QR code that shows the entire traceability. So during this period of time, we need to move from that leave me alone that I use to make things faster, better, cheaper. And then we move from that to a more collaborative, and we basically measure and we communicate all the social and environmental impact. So what we see here is that is something that now, because of COVID, it gives rise to the conscientious consumerism, and the new age or the new conscientious consumer wanted a product, not that it is well made, beautifully made, but it also has to make the right social and environmental impact. And all this will actually make the entire loop, the entire coalition that comes together to be more sustainable and more impactful when it comes to social and environmental change. My humble 2 cents. Over to you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you very much, Kian. Yeah, you're right, Stassi and Kian. If there's one advantage that this pandemic has brought is that more and more businesses are looking to source locally, right? Because before the practice has been look overseas where it's cheapest, right? But now we're more looking locally to source, and not just. It's also good for the environment because the carbon footprint is smaller. So that's you raised both of you raised very good points. But enough questions from me. Our participants might get upset with me. I have to ask the questions from one of our attendees. So anyone could take this question. The question is expanding the concept of circular economy. What can business and authorities do to expand out to full circular economy? The outcome of effective circular economy would go a long way to achieving SDGs. Who wants to take this question?
I will take this question. I will do this quickly. So I'm going to echo my earlier point, my earlier point, which is about collaboration. I think businesses are coming together to collaborate together. So we have our simple 5C model. Our simple 5C model basically is collect, convert, co-create, champion, conscientious consumer. So by doing this, we basically find the believers to work together on this, that not only we are making profit, but we are making purposeful profit. So it would need to come to a point whereby we can get that commercial gain or the commercial profit on one end, but at the same time, it needs to make the social and environmental impact as well. So this time around, like you mentioned earlier on, Dr. Ali, there are a lot more businesses that are coming together, and we are sitting on the table, not just to design a product, but to design a product life cycle. So we design how the product, what kind of recycled content that we are using, how can we help each other to come up with a standardized framework that we fulfill all the industrial standard. Is the product something that the consumer needs? And at the same time, does it help to make an impact to a community? Now, for me, my community would be the current Guni that we call it, or the scavengers that we call it, that is, the scavengers, the mobile pickers, the out and all that informal community, that grassroots recycling. We want to give a voice to this community. And at the same time, so what we do is that we want to, through this design of the entire life cycle, design of a particular application, we then can actually make the best out of it and even recycle product, as what you mentioned before, or what you are aware is that we are able to command premium pricing. And with that premium pricing, it becomes what I call a marginal pricing advantage, that it will pull the entire pyramid up. And that becomes the most important value creation commercially, from a social point of view, and from an environmental point of view. And by doing that, you will basically hit the SDG 12, 14, and 17 easily, regarding marine life, a healthy marine life. It talks about responsible production and consumption. Last but not least, is through partnership with the selected communities. Over to you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you very much, Kian. So, hearing from all of you, and but as we have seen throughout the course of history, we know that the best ideas and the best innovations really come from small and medium scale enterprises. So I would just like to maybe change this question a little bit, because the question was, what can business and authorities do? So, and having heard from all of you coming from SMEs, you do have you're doing a lot of things. So, Jansen, I would like to hear from you. What do you think should authorities or governments should do to expand to full circular economy, to encourage circular economy?
I think basically at the moment in the pandemic situation here, I think a lot of SME are very affected because of, I think over here, one of the major issue we have actually is the financial or the cash flow issue that all the SME has over here. But for the SME to move forward now, for example, like what I'm in now in my present situation here, my business model is more towards about 60% are on a project basis. Means we create new compounds, sheet for our customers to meet their requirements, things like that. And along the line here, my sales department and my R&D department needs to have a lot of interaction with our customers. The big MNCs, they have a lot of requests and all that. And sometimes the project may take like about 10 visits or things like that to actually get precisely what the customers want for us to build up a project, a kind of special compound for them, to do the sheet for them. And because of the pandemic situation here, visiting each other are not allowed and things like that. And from that Dynapack as a company, we have moved into digitalizations. It means now at the moment, I have a platform on our own. We build on our own where all my salespeople can key in all the database, like, they interview our customers in a Zoom meeting or whatever. And they give this database to our team. And this team shares the database, means whatever they have by the sales department, it will be shared with our process people, our R&D, and the production people to give the impact, the input. How do we go about this? And in the past, they're actually having a physical meeting. But now in the past, when in the present situation, everything was key in and it goes into our mobile app, and there will be alerts sent to all the team members to actually read their informations. So until today, we have completed this, and along the way, we actually has a rather good alert system for the project. The moment when the stage comes into the production area, the planner will be alerted. That is a job he take over, and he do the planning, and this will be alert to all the salespeople when the samples to be trialed, and when the samples to be ready, and when the logistics department is going to send out. So all these things has been in a live platform. We do that, okay. But to doing this, I think the SME needs a lot of fund actually to go about it. So we talk about how the government coming in, and I think Malaysian government has given us some very good incentive for the 440 grant by the various agencies in Malaysia, which we have SIRIM, MUSTI, and all these people. And well, Dynapack, we are quite lucky. I've been getting about 2 to 3 funds lately, a grant for me to move forward to do this. So in our respect now, I think, yes, the government is actually helping our the SME to actually move forward into this. I think it's very important for digitalization. In fact, today, half of my team, since the CMCO started, the control movement ordinance started in Malaysia, I'm moving my production management team into 2 teams now. So you come to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you come on Tuesday and Thursday. So practically now, my team don't meet. The 2 management team don't meet. So I think I reduce The risk of the situation in my factories means I got two teams which is independent. They don't meet each other, but our production runs 24 hours. So this kind of digitalizations helps the whole organizations. Like today, we also have our HR systems on the app. Means all my workers, including the operators, the foreigners, as long as you have a handphone, you can work in a company. You apply your leave, your medical leave, everything is online, and you will send an alert to their head of department. Got it approved. You're off. You don't have to come to office. Things like that. On top of that, yes, I also look into the health issue of my staff. My staff, if you don't come today to work, let's say you are on off, I request you to work at 8 o'clock as like you are coming to work and you're going to walk 5 kilometers. I'm so sorry, I maybe it's a little bit off the line, but my workers walk for 5 kilometers to show to my HR department they actually exercise to keep their health, because I think they come to work on today, but tomorrow they may say, oh, tomorrow I'm not working, so I can stay back late and I wake up at 10 o'clock. No, I think everybody has to be on a par. They still start working, they still start doing the exercise on their off day, which is their work from home day. They have to walk for 5 hours, 5 kilometers or an hour plus, so they have to report by 9:30 by the app to our office, our HR department, to say, yes, they have done the job, and then, well, okay, then you can start, open up your computers and wait for any alerts to come in. So this is actually what Dynapack we are doing on the platforms over here, including our quality control situation. We are also online now. Every particular batch going out, my QA manager don't have to come to office to actually check the physics, the raw materials, the finished good themselves. Everything is reported online on a certain criteria we approve to the customers. So this is actually what I think for my company to move forward. Actually, I think this pandemic is going to, is going to, at least for the next 1 year or so. So the working norm for the company will be different. So my company is trying to adopt into this, and we hope that by doing this, the company sustainability will be actually at a better level to face any situation is getting bad or worse. But I think it is good that now my staff is having a better quality of life because, well, they have more time, and I think things are more relaxed because they don't have to rush. I think getting to office every day, every staff would be on the road, traffic jam, on the road for about an hour plus. So I think that kind of time to be used as disposable for the enhancement of the quality of life into that aspect. So this is where our company is. We are going to digitalizations, and I think with the help of the company, we are good. Right? Okay, over to you, Dr. Ellie.
Thank you very much, Jansen. Actually, we're getting a lot of questions from our audience who are watching directly on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go through all of them. So I will just pose one last question to everyone. So this question is, SMEs often have high investment costs to transition into being more sustainable. How can SMEs best balance profit and enviro-social responsibility? So I'll ask Catriona to go first.
I think when you're a social enterprise, the way that we're formed is that we see a social problem and then we create a business model to work to build solutions. So I think SME, or sort of standard business, has got a very different approach to a social enterprise, because I think upon building your business model, you're thinking about sustainability, and economic sustainability comes actually hand in hand with environmental sustainability. So I think it's a different case for social enterprises. We're building all of these blocks right from the beginning rather than transitioning at a later stage.
Thank you very much, Catriona. Sassy?
So I think I tried to answer a little bit about this earlier. I think as a business, of course, if you're not making a profit, then you cannot achieve social responsibility, right? So even as a social enterprise, when we were first starting up, some impact investors were like, oh, hey, what's your impact? And can you show me can you measure your impact? And at that point, as a small business, we didn't have time to measure our impact per se. but we knew we were having impact. And in the early years of the business, I was definitely focused more on economic sustainability of the business, because I needed to make sure that the business model that we have is in itself viable. Otherwise, we're going to be out of business and there's no point doing what we're doing anyway. So I think, but we never compromised on our environmental values. So for us, it's very important that even as we focus on economic sustainability, we need to make sure that none of our ethical and environmental values are compromised in any way to achieve those profits. So I think that's the view that as a social enterprise we come in. So it's not about just doing whatever and making a lot of money and then going back to figure out how we can now make that income stream environmentally sustainable. So I think for SME thinking about this, it's actually really thinking about, whatever new products, new business streams or income streams that you're looking at, at the outset, like what Catriona said, look at the environmental, values of that income stream at the outset. Don't create a product to make money and then try to retroactively try to make it like environmentally friendly. Look at the social and environmental impacts of your idea or your innovation or your product or your strategy, even before you start, making it.
Thank you very much, Sassy. Ian, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. So the way I look at this is that sometimes, businesses or different entities will look at this as almost like a mutually exclusive thing. If you are for profit, then it's profit, then the social and environmental impact is add-on. Or if you focus more on social and environmental impact, you are basically putting economic at the backseat. The way I see this is that the most important thing, it really started from the belief that we could drive all three together. It's not mutually exclusive. In fact, it enhances one from the other to make it more sustainable and more long-term. So during this pandemic, what we will see is that in our business, at least, we see two groups. One groups are all about survival, are all about throwing prices and making it cheap, and it's just driving basically based on the economic aspect of that. Now, as a result of that, the entire plastic industry, the product are being commoditized at the fastest rate that we've ever seen. On the other group are the group that suddenly and said, you know what, in order to differentiate this, my core differentiation is going to be my sustainability strategy. So what that means is that I'm going to do basically design and innovate a product, a solution, a model that not only that it is economically viable, it is also making the impact in terms of social and environment. Now, I think that it's the other one that we see. And for us, we do offer product for both sides, but we spend a lot more of our mind share on the long-term business, because this is not a sprint. There's not a sprint, a quick sprint to sprint out of COVID. I think it is more of a marathon that we need to do this. And by being focused on long-term, it will really help. One of the small exercises for the audience that are listening to this is to play a little interesting game or a little bit of an experiment. Look into the business that you have right now and look at it from two different aspects. One aspect is that how much additional investment that you need, so there's low and high. And then the other aspect is on impact, whether it's high impact or low impact. And kind of brainstorm the idea and really pay attention to that 4 quadrant. Pay attention to those things that you can make a high impact with very little investment. Now, a lot of that is a shift of that mentality and say, okay, I'm going to make, based on what I have right now, I'm going to offer the existing product and I'm going to push it more so that it can make that social and environmental impact. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do, within that quadrant. A lot of things that we can do to actually check the boxes to be commercially, to be economically, socially, and environmentally viable. And at the same time, it requires very little investment. Of course, once we test out on that experiment or pilot, we may actually want to do bigger and scale faster in terms of what we are doing. And that's when the big investment comes in. But to embark on the journey, you don't need a lot of big investment. Actually, it requires very little investment. The biggest part is the mind shift to think that all this is possible, to check all the boxes. Over to you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you very much, Kian. So before we wrap up, we get our final word from Jensen. Jensen?
All right. Yeah, I think a very quick one. I tend to agree with Ken on this issue. There is no exclusive situation here. Economic, social responsibility, sustainability, I think this goes together. And as an entrepreneur, for us to sustain our business, we must make sure that the material or the business or things that we do will not harm the environment. If not, you cannot sustain your business, because once you harm the environment, there will be no things coming back, because it's a cycle. In everything in life, it's a cycle. So I believe to say, like, for example, in Dynapack, why we work into a closed loop, and I go back to my first situation here, we go in a closed loop relationship, raw materials, recycling with our customers, we take them back to hopefully they didn't go into the market and too much on that, and there'll be a lot of contamination to the environment on that part. And we also try to make our product useful, and the material that we do, we try to make it a long sustainable product for our customers. Yes, it may be impacting our bottom line profit, but I think in that sense, you have to make a balance for as an entrepreneur. Sustainability, business viability, and also social responsibility. I think these three has to group together, and you have to find a path, a real path that actually makes us in a balanced form, so that there will be no situational upset. That's okay. Doctor, over to you, Dr. Ali. All right.
Thank you very much to all our distinguished speakers in this panel. We apologize we went over a few minutes, but it was just a very interesting and dynamic conversation. And we hope that all the participants here today were able to pick up a thing or two. Well, I think more than two from our speakers. But let me just, I think, from all the discussion, let me just pick up like the main takeaways. I think, and it's very impressive that all of our entrepreneurs here, they're not in the business of addressing specific social issues or social problems. But however, it's not enough that you're doing addressing social problems, right? Your SME should also be able to build resilience and operate with financial discipline. And we've also heard them talk about the importance of innovation and risk taking, to ensure survivability of their enterprise. And more importantly, we manage for today and lead for tomorrow. We've heard, from all of them, the importance of sustainability. And sustainability is meeting the needs of today without sacrificing the needs of future generation. And, I heard this from one of the commissioners here in the Philippines of the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's really important. Why is it important for us to be sustainable? Because no one can do business in a dead planet. And on that note, I would like to thank the organizers, our panel of speakers, and also most especially our participants. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.